Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this wonderful seminar today, The Crystalline Structure of the Body. The Crystalline Structure of the Body. It's a joy to present this special seminar on our topic, The Crystalline Structure of the Body. Section 1 will focus on the missing piece of the crystalline structure and the new studies that are providing a possible growth in this area. Session 2 will focus on the electromagnetic energies of the light, the mind of God, that can be transmitted into the physical structure of our body. We will take a break at 11:30, from 11:30 to noon. I just want to mention to you that the material was heavy today. It's heavy, and I encourage you to view the seminar again and again and again and again, just to digest it. Take your time. It'll be listed under our special seminar archives. Let's begin. For years, there's been a dilemma that we have all faced. We have been told that we are creating our reality, and we have found this to be true primarily for our thoughts and emotions, but not necessarily for creating the physical health that we have desired. Let me explain. As we have advanced spiritually, we realize that we have a pretty good control of our thinking and our emotions. And I think each one of us has really worked hard to change the way we think, and especially the resulting emotions that come from our thoughts. And for the most part, we've been quite successful. At the very least, I think we can say that we can change our thoughts and emotions, at least with perhaps maybe a little more effort on our part. But when it comes to that one aspect of ourselves that we have not seemingly had control over, it's been a problem. Even though we have tried, so many times we find out that there's a difficulty in changing our physical bodies. As much as we have often tried to control our body by our thoughts and our emotions, we have been unable to do so. And we haven't had some of the successes that we would like to have had with our thoughts and emotions. Well, we've done a little better, but for the most part, our body seemingly has been a holdout for us. We've had occurrences such as a cold, a sore throat, the flu, a bad back, and we try to control these areas. But we often, in a sense, ended up taking medication or just suffering through the problem. We knew that we were not in charge of our physical body. We knew that, whatever it was, that we just were not in charge of the physical body. What was missing? Why was it that we felt that we could control our thoughts and our emotions, but could not control the ailments in our physical body? We were lacking a control mechanism that we could count on, a control mechanism that we might be in charge of. At the same time, we were told in esoteric teachings, we were told in higher metaphysical teachings that the human body was changing from a carbon-based chemistry to a crystalline structure based on silicon. Let me just repeat that. We were told in esoteric teaching that our bodies were changing chemically from a carbon-based chemistry to a more crystalline structure based on not carbon, but silicon. While this approach sounded good and offered a possible solution, I never read how such a change would occur. There were so many questions that I had, and nowhere was I able to find a satisfactory answer. So with this hope of controlling the body's process and trusting that I am creating my reality, there were three steps that became my experience that I will now share with you. Again, that notion of controlling the body, being able to create my physical reality, not just by thoughts and emotions. These three steps were very helpful for me. And again, I just ask you to ponder them. The first step was an event that occurred about 20 years ago. I suddenly awoke from a sound sleep, and a voice clearly announced to me, and you'll see it on your handout, stop thinking like a limited, mortal, physical human. Start thinking like an unlimited, eternal soul in complete control of its human persona, instrument, and manifestation. Yes, I'm going to repeat that. Stop thinking like a limited, mortal, physical human. Start thinking like an unlimited, eternal soul in complete control of its human persona, instrument, and manifestation. I'm going to repeat it one more time. Stop thinking like a limited, mortal, physical human. Whew, not the easiest thing to do. Start thinking like an unlimited, eternal soul in complete control of its human persona, instrument, and manifestation. Well, I was thrilled. I was thrilled to receive this information. One of the 2 or 3 times that I felt that I really had received a message from the beyond, right there in my bedroom. The only problem was that while this message certainly resonated within me, and I believed it to be true, oftentimes when I tried to control my physical reactions to a cold, a sore throat, a bad back, I could not, and ended up either taking medication or simply suffering through it. Something was obviously missing. Although I had some successes, I knew that I was not in control. But then when I had my heart attack 8 years ago, I clearly knew that something was missing because, and I want to be really clear about this, because it was apparent that I was still not thinking. I was not thinking like an unlimited, eternal soul in complete control of my human persona, instrument, and manifestation. It was clear to me that I was not thinking like an unlimited, eternal soul. Oh yes, I had advanced in my spirituality as all of you have, but I was still not thinking like an unlimited, eternal soul. I then began a very important part of finding that missing piece. I needed to think. I needed to think not like that limited human. I needed to think like an unlimited, eternal soul. I needed to listen better, to understand that I needed to think like an unlimited, eternal soul. The second step. At this time, I began a study in A Course in Mastering Alchemy, which then began to bring 4 of the missing pieces into the puzzle. Let me explain. I studied the Course in Mastering Alchemy for 4 years and have trained over 100 members, over 100 of us, in now creations in his teachings. I am very, very happy of the work that we have accomplished together, and quite frankly are still doing, because the Course in Mastering Alchemy has given us, I think, the 4 new pieces of establishing a mechanism, 4 new pieces for establishing a mechanism to have better control of our physical bodies. These are the 4 pieces that the Course in Mastering Alchemy have added. First, it clearly has established the fact that we are not a limited human personality, but that we truly are an eternal soul spirit. How important this change of identity was. In the very first part of the definition, the Course in Mastering Alchemy advises us to change the frequency of your thinking. You have to change the frequency of your thinking from the limited mortal human into that eternal soul spirit that you are. This is such an important thing for us. We are much more than that limited human self. And we have to make the transition into acknowledge our conscious self now, not so much as the limited human, but as that conscious, eternal soul spirit. First big step. The second step. The Course in Mastering Alchemy clearly teaches that we had dimmed the light of God within us to play the game of separation. This was the new teaching. That we had dimmed our own lights to play the game of separation. And we didn't even know that we had done this. We didn't know that we dimmed our lights, nor that we were even playing in a game of separation. What a revelation this was, certainly to me, and my presumption to all of us, that we had dimmed our own light so that we could play this game of separation, of fear, worry, anxiety, negativity, depression, identifying with the physical body and the worldly self, rather than identifying with our soul spirit. Haven't we all done this? We so identify with our body and the world to the neglect of identifying with that soul spirit. And we played this game of separation to the hilt. I can't overestimate how this reversal in thought from the game of separation, identifying with your body and worldly self, to the game of alignment, where you now identify with your soul spirit, is such a critical step to understand. If you continue to play the game of separation, you'll not do well with restructuring the crystalline aspect of your body. The third step, the third piece. The third piece about the Course in Mastering Alchemy that really was very important was this notion, so important, that we are created for well-being. You and I are created from our source for well-being. What a wonderful idea this is. Why we did not hold on to this idea in the past was due to the game of separation that we played. We thought that life was not meant to be so easy. We had forgotten that we were created for well-being. We neglected the teaching of Jesus on the Sermon on the Mount when he said that you, with all of your limitations, if one of your kids asked for a loaf of bread, would you give them a stone? Or if they wanted a fish, would you give them a poisonous snake? How much more so would your Heavenly Father want to bless you? We have to reestablish the fact that we are created for well-being. We have to get out of the worrisome, fearful, anxious-laden mind. And we have to learn to establish we are created for well-being. This is a critical missing piece for the expansion of our spiritual consciousness. And lastly, the fourth piece. A Course in Mastering Alchemy affirmed again and again and again that we are creating our reality by the thoughts that we think. That's really a good piece of news when we can stop thinking like a limited human, raise the frequency of our thoughts into our soul spirit. And not only are we creating the reality, but we can also alter the energy of our physical body. This is the piece that A Course in Mastering Alchemy has brought in. That if you change the frequency of your thinking, you can alter your physicality. You can alter the harmonics of physical matter. This has been the elusive piece, certainly for me, and I think for all of us. Try as we might, although we had some successes, for the most part, we were not able to control the physical body. It just seemed to be beyond us. We were missing this critical piece of raising the frequency of our thinking to a soul spirit to the point that it might have a greater control over our physicality. So these were my first and second steps. A brief summary of them. My personal experiences from my personal revelation of that saying in my bedroom and my heart attack, realizing what I had not done yet. And then these four missing pieces from A Course in Mastering Alchemy. Those were the first and the second steps. We're now ready for the third step. The third step had two parts to it. The first part was a field of biology and chemistry called epigenetics. The field of biology and chemistry called epigenetics. A first book that many of us read was entitled The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. Many of you have read that book, The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. In this groundbreaking book, written in 2005, Lipton introduced us to the study of epigenetics. The word itself simply means beyond genetics. Epi means beyond, genetics, obviously the structure of our genes. In this book, Lipton suggested that it is not our genes that determine our biology and chemistry, but rather the genes themselves are controlled by what he called our environment. And the environment basically was the thoughts, beliefs, and emotions that you carried with you. This was such an important aspect for us. I began to see how when I changed the quality of my thinking and my emotions, my beliefs, that maybe that has more to do with the structure of my body than simply the DNA that was already in it. And if I changed my environment, there was a possibility of changing my DNA and would thus perhaps allow me to have greater control over my body. This field of epigenetics has obviously grown in the past years. And recently I have read a book called The Genie in Your Genes. The Genie in Your Genes, clever book, by Dawson Church, published in 2014. The Genie in Your Genes by Dawson Church, published in 2014. While this book had many examples of case studies wherein one's environment, their beliefs, their thoughts, and then their emotions gave a better direction to their genes, which was fascinating to me. It was quite another aspect of the book that really struck me. In fact, I was so excited when I read it, I could say that it floored me. And it provided the basis of this workshop. When we're talking about the crystalline structure of the body, this is what floored me by Church's presentation. Church stated that crystals already exist within the body. I just kind of had considered crystals to be like quartz crystals, and I wasn't quite sure how they fit into the biology. But Dawson Church said that the crystals already exist within the body. This excited me, especially as presented in the following definition by Church. Church defined crystals as a highly regular parallel array of molecules. I'll just say that again. A highly regular parallel array of molecules. And this then was what really struck me, whether in liquid or solid form. This is how Church defined what a crystal is. A highly regular parallel array of molecules, whether in liquid or solid form. That was interesting to me. A highly regular parallel array of molecules, whether in liquid or solid form. But what really excited me was where he said these crystals are found in the several kinds of tissues that we have, including 6 of the following. I know that I did not write these on the outline, so I am going to ask you to write them, because I think if you write them, you'll think about them a little bit more than just having read them. These are the 6 areas in which church found crystallization. Not the only areas, but the 6 that I thought were most prominent. The first one, the big one, the DNA in your genes. The DNA in your genes themselves. Well, boy, that was interesting. The DNA in your genes. The second one was the photosensitive rod, the photosensitive rod and cone cells. The photosensitive rod and cone cells at the back of the eye. That was interesting to me. The photosensitive rod and cone cells at the back of the eye. So those first 2 places, the DNA in your genes, and then secondly, the photosensitive rod and cone cells at the back of the eye. The third was really interesting. The myelin sheath, and I'll spell the word myelin, M-Y-E-L-I-N, M-Y-E-L-I-N, the myelin sheath of nerve cells, M-Y-E-L-I-N, the myelin sheath of nerve cells. Wow. The fourth place, the collagen molecules, the collagen molecules, C-O-L-L-A-G-E-N, the collagen molecules that make up our connective tissue. The collagen, C-O-L-L-A-G-E-N, molecules that make up our connective tissue, our fascia, F-A-S-C-I-A. This is really interesting. The collagen of our connective tissue, which connects the entire body, our fascia, F-A-S-C-I-A. We're so thankful for the 2 presentations on fascia that we have had in our topical conversations. Number 5, the muscle tissues densely packed molecules, muscle tissues, densely packed molecules. Give you time to write that. Muscle tissues, densely packed molecules of actin, A-C-T-I-N, A-C-T-I-N, and myosin, myosin, actin, and myosin. Your muscles, tissues, densely packed molecules of actin and myosin. And then a huge one for me, although I don't understand it totally, a huge one. The sixth one, the phospholipids. I'll spell the word. Phospho, P-H-O-S-P-H-O, P-H-O-S-P-H-O, L-I-P-I-D-S, the phospholipids of cell membranes. Oh my. The phospholipids of cell membranes. You're starting to get the picture of the ADP in the very center of our cells. Let me briefly go over 6 of the areas in which Dawson Church indicates that there is crystallization. Number 1, the DNA in our genes. Number 2, the photosensitive rod and cone cells at the back of our eyes. Number 3, the myelin sheath of nerve cells. Number 4, the collagen molecules that make up our connective tissue, our fascia. Number 5, muscle tissue's densely packed molecules of actin, A-C-T-I-N, and myosin, M-Y-O-S-I-N. And number 6, the phospholipids of cell membranes. The phospholipids, P-H-O-S-P-H-O, L-I-P-I-D-S, of cell membranes. This seems to me to be the missing piece of developing a crystalline structure in our body. The crystals are already within us. The crystals are already within us. And notice again where they are. They are already in the DNA in our genes. They're in our eye cells, nerve cells, muscle cells, our fascia, the connective tissue of the entire body. And in our cell membranes, which are the gatekeepers of the DNA in our cells. Oh my. In our cell membranes, the phospholipids, which are the gatekeepers of the DNA in our cells. I am quite excited by this understanding. It gives us a direction. And I think you're kind of seeing where we're going to go in session 2. That we no longer have dimmed our lights, and we have realigned fully with the light, and we already have a crystalline structure in our bodies. Now that we have ended the game of separation and have reconnected with the light, and know that we have a crystalline structure within the body, it would just seem to make sense. What we simply need to do is raise the frequency of our thinking and see if, in fact, we might not be able to bring that higher energy of light into the crystalline structure of the body. There's a lot more in session 2. But for right now, what I'd like to do is offer an opportunity for any questions. I realize that this is pretty heavy and dense material. I've tried to present it very logically for you. But let me ask now, before we go into meditation, are there any questions or comments that any of you would like to make? And please remember, the session is being recorded. Any questions, any comments? This is the time to ask the questions. Doug first, and then Wendy and Patty Nikino. Doug first.
Well, I was wondering if these crystals in all of these parts of our bodies have always been there during the whole human race, or are they now increasing? Are there many more now that the past years since we've been evolving a little bit?
Yes, I believe that they've always been there. I believe that they're also increasing. Mm-hmm. And the second session will really show how the increase occurs. When we dim the light, we also dimmed the possibility of the crystals expanding. Mm-hmm. So now, as we reinitiate the light, we will reinitiate the possibility of the crystals expanding. Okay. That's pretty interesting.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that. That's going to be one of the major points, Doug. A good observation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wendy and then Patty.
Yeah, the myelin sheath, I was wondering what that was, so I did a quick Google search, and it's something that goes around the nerve cells, and it allows electrical impulses to travel quickly and efficiently.
How about that?
So that's what we're trying to grow and increase, is this
absolutely
ability for it to work better. If we don't do that, then it's going to dim the light.
When you bring in the higher light, then what it does, that higher light, it then excites the myelin sheaths to bring those electrical thoughts, impulses throughout your entire neurological system. That's it. That's what we're going to be doing. Patty Nikino and then John. Patty or Tony, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Tony here, Vince.
Yes, go ahead, Tony.
Vince, in your introduction, you mentioned various physical ailments, you were, thinking about in the process. And I think it's fair to say that we could add physical addictions to that list, isn't it?
Physical addictions by way of
drugs, alcohol.
Sure.
Of course, that's just a natural extension of what you said. Thanks.
Of course, absolutely. Mm-hmm. John Hoops. John.
Yes, Vince, under step 3, when you were talking about crystals in this highly regular parallel array of molecules, is that literally the concept of they line up parallel rather than being jumbled, disorganized? Have they taken photos of that? I'm just curious
Yes,
if there's any
yeah, they're in the book, The Genie in Your Genes.
Yes.
They're in the book,
So if they're not in regular parallel array, then they're not in crystalline form. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I think that's fair to say, or they're in very weak crystalline form.
Yes, yes.
And not only would they be in weak crystalline form, but what is very important is they would not then be able to receive, I don't want to use the word yet. So I want to
That's
say
fine. That's fine. That's fine.
They will not be able to receive their possibilities. Doug alluded to that already, that these crystals have always been within us, but they are not there. They have not been to their fullest extent because of the dimming of the light of separation.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think when we hit that spot in the second session, I think it'll become very, very clear. At least that's my hope, anyways. Bob McFarland. Bob.
Thank you. Just a quick clarification. That's the Dawson Church's book, The Genie in Your Genes. Is that correct?
That's correct. The Genie in Your Genes.
That sounds like a pretty powerful book that might be on our reading list.
I think it's on a reading list. I don't know if we'll do a study on it. It's but it's very very helpful for our reading list. I think it's I'm going to give you the essence of it, quite frankly, that it's worthwhile reading, but it's not poolside reading. It's you want to take maybe a chapter at a time and kind of sit and mull it over, but it's very much moving in the direction of moving beyond simply carbon-based biochemical reactions and moving into more electromagnetic energy of the light. So I think it's very interesting, and I would certainly recommend it. I don't know that we'll do it as a book study, though.
Thank you. Yeah, I need help raising the frequency of my thinking.
One of the nice parts about the book is that at the very end of the book, it exemplifies the 5-minute energy routine of Donna Eden. And that's one of the things I personally have begun to do recently, which I highly recommend. It's a 5-minute, just 5 minutes energy routine to get you moving in the course of the day. And it's nicely presented, although Donna Eden's book, Energy Medicine, would probably be, I think, an easier and better read. But I like the way that the 5-minute energy routine is nicely presented in The Genie in Our Genes. It's very worthwhile. Plus, you'll find tapping points for EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. So I think it's a very worthwhile book, and it really gives practical, everyday things you can do. So that one of the things that we can do is physically, energetically influence our crystallization. We can do physical things such as tapping, massaging, flexing, squeezing, and so on. These are very important things. They're called the piezoelectric effect. The piezoelectric effect. Don't worry about the word. I like it because it sounds like pizza. Anyhow, was that helpful, Bob?
Absolutely. Thank you. Right on target. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Best we can do. We're helping each other. John Hoops first and then Renee.
That opening, step 1, stop acting like a limited mortal, etc. I remember that long ago. It's pretty interesting to me how that, and you laid this out really nice, Vince. That I think is what I'm trying to say. The sequence on the first page were pretty familiar things, but needed to be said to set the stage, that the path that all this is coming together. But I thought step 3 really just laid out those 6 parts really spoke to me. This whole sequence was really nicely put together. So I just want to thank you.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yes, we need to see it kind of with a big picture rather than a piece here, a piece there. And that's what I've tried to do. And in section 2, we'll really work on getting these things broken down into specifics. Absolutely. That's what we want to do. And again, we're helping each other. I am certainly not the final word on these things, but I see a pathway that puts my life together, and I mean, I'm quite aware of that direction I got 20 years ago on the soul, but I've not been able to get it into practical action. Now, there are some things that I think we can do, which we'll talk about in session 2. Thank you, John, for your nice compliment. Renee, and then Patty. Renee?
Yes, okay, this has really been enlightening me about the how crystals can be in the liquid form. It might be helpful for people. I've always heard that myelin, which is a fatty layer around, a lipid layer around our nerves, can be compared to the insulation in wiring. It's like that insulation around the wire.
Mhm.
So that's what I've always heard to help. It's like MS, people with a neurological MS, they're losing that insulation, so their
Well,
nerves can't travel as.
you can see then where, that's where the acupressure, acupuncture points that would be one of the places where it might be located. And also you begin to see that that crystallization can have a lot of other effects upon our physicality with our muscles.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We're helping each other, trying to learn this better for ourselves. Patty or Tony?
Patty here. So I was just wondering, the crystals that people use in different healing modalities, Reiki or however, does that enhance the crystalline structure of our body when we use the crystals in healing modalities?
I think it's helpful, but here's what I really think. If people use crystals, external crystals outside the body for healing modality, the degree to which you have already activated your internal crystals would be benefited by the external use of crystals. If you've not developed the internal crystals, I think the external utilization would be of more limited success.
Okay.
Does it make sense to you?
Yes. Yes.
To the degree that you start stimulating the internal physical, then the external would seem to have a greater, it's an electromagnetic radiation.
Yeah. Just adding more gas to the.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Thanks.
exactly it. That's
hold on.
exactly.
Vince, can I slip in a comment?
Yes, go ahead, Tony, please. We're here to.
Yeah, this ties into a thought that I had was I've been using tuning forks as a mechanism to gain resonance in my frequency, and I was shocked at how they worked, how quickly they worked. And I suppose it's just like the crystal rocks that Patty just mentioned. Your comment makes sense that it enhances the already present system, but it may not be helpful for somebody that is maybe earlier in a process of understanding their biological energy. So is that fair to say?
It's very fair to say, and I'm going to add that as you bring in more light, which is electromagnetic energy, and I'll suggest ways to do that, you will grow the crystallization within your physicality, which would then allow the tuning forks to have even a greater impact upon you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. Yes. As my internal frequency further attunes with the energy. Yeah. I'll experience it more, even more intensely with the tuning forks.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. It strikes me as this, if somebody dropped in on this class in the middle, they would say, well, this has nothing to do with spirituality or religion, does it? Oh boy, it it very much does.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Thanks.
You
This
know,
is great.
the biggest problem that most of us have is, what do you do with the body?
Yeah.
What do you do with the body? And at the end of A Course in Mastering Alchemy, the last page or two, they talk about the notion the elders teach that this movement forward is something the earth has not seen ever. So this, I think, it's an interesting place to explore, that there may be something going on in the recrystallization of the structure of the body. Excuse me, I just need to mute. Hold on 1 second, just need to do a mute. What they say is that this recrystallization of the body would bring us something we have not seen ever. Now, what that might mean, I think would be interesting. And of course, we also have to just take a look at these things, that the lower frequencies of the body have brought the illness, aging, and death, the big three of the Buddhist perspective. So I think we're just taking another look at all of these three things and saying, well, maybe there's another way of going about not only perhaps healing illness, aging, and death, but also to work on the more positive aspects. And we have to learn that we're doing this not just maybe as individuals, but part of the human species, so that each one of us might be just contributing our own parts to maybe something coming a lot further down the pike, or maybe something coming on our pikes. Just a matter of talking, matter of just talking about these things. It's exciting. And there's something I know within each one of you that's exciting right now. I know that. There's something in you that is, you're feeling your Wheaties. I'm sure of that. I'm sure of it. Are there any other comments that anyone else would like to make? And please feel we have plenty of time to address questions. Wendy.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that myelin. I'm looking again. Let me quickly read. That myelin is a fatty white substance that wraps around the end of many nerve cells. It forms an electrically insulating sheath that increases nerve condition speeds. And it seems to me that this could be an important factor or thing in, Alzheimer's disease, keeping your mind active as you grow older. So I just thought that was interesting. Again, it's a fat,
Absolutely.
it's the plasma that wraps around the nerve cells. So
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've looked up a couple of these terms that I really didn't understand, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a biochemist, but I do find it pretty interesting to see these things and to see what they're about. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I encourage you to look up these terms and see how they operate. I mean, that's what I have done many times. What does this mean? What does that mean? Pam, and then Carolyn. Pam, go ahead.
A friend of mine has multiple sclerosis. I think she's losing her myelin sheath. So assuming this study would really help her. Is that right?
I think it's certainly possible. I always want to say that in addition to what might be going on physically, that what the soul has in mind for that body's personification may be different. In other words, she may be facing a debilitating illness just to experience it and to see what it's like. Or she may be experiencing it also with healing coming. So it's just very important to realize that the soul is always directing the process, and it may have there can be different possibilities. So I just think, but can this be one? I think absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank
That's
you.
my opinion.
Thank you.
Sure, Pam. Carolyn,
Oh, you talk about timing. My husband has MS, so the myelin sheath thing is very well known in our household.
sure.
But this whole workshop we're doing today is giving me so. Now here I'm going to try and not say, well, you should, but this has given me so many more in-depth thoughts about the spirituality of things and how it's connected to the body and so forth. Thank you very much. I so appreciate this.
You're welcome, Carolyn. And that's what we want to do, to show the connection between spirituality and the body. That this is a very, very important thing for us. And, quite frankly, session 1 is very important to be able to present the things we need to consider. Session 2 will be considering those things. And that's really important. And I think we'll find that to be enormously interesting. I think we will. Sherry, I think you have a comment or question?
Yes, and help me if I have this backwards, and you may be covering this in the second half. But what excites me is thoughts are electric and emotions are magnetic, or do I have that backwards?
That's correct.
And just to think about how my thoughts are affecting those nerve impulses to my body. So if I'm thinking unhealthy, negative, dense, I'm creating blockages and dis-ease in my body. And so it's so important, and it excites me, but it also scares me.
Let's get rid of the scary. That's why we need to find the antidote to negative thoughts.
Right, exactly. So I would love support in that. I'm working on it and I'm getting there. But yeah, a lot of it is having the awareness and catching yourself.
That's correct. That's correct. And you make a very nice point, Sherry, that our thoughts and emotions have been the reasons why we've had ailments over the years. I consider them the basic reason why I had my heart attack, because we just took for granted that this is the way things were, that you might have fearful thoughts or negative thoughts, and there's enough things going on in the world to move you in that direction. So to even think that there might be something, well, you don't have to do that. But we didn't have the light that we needed. At least I didn't, and I presume most of us have not. We did not have the light we needed. Now we know that we can bring in the light, and it's up to us bringing in the light that might then change the crystalline structure in our body, which will become less carbon-based and more silicon-based, like computer chips. We'll talk about that in the next section. But you're right on target, Sherry, with that. It's a very good point to keep in mind. Are there any other questions that people you'd like to ask? And remember, your question might be helpful for someone else. So again, just want you to know we
You're
have
the
plenty of time.
cutest, bestest kitty ever.
Carolyn again?
Yeah, I missed something here. She said thoughts are electric and emotions, or I didn't get that.
Emotions are magnetic.
Magnetic. Thank you so much. Sorry to interrupt.
That's from A Course in Mastering Alchemy. So that thoughts and emotions generate electromagnetic energy. One's thoughts and emotions generate electromagnetic energy. The greater we would bring in the light, the greater would be our electromagnetic energy that might have a healing and well-being impact upon our physicality. Does that sequence make sense, Carolyn?
Very much so. Very much so. Thank you.
This is a very important part to grasp. When you increase you're the mind of God, we'll talk about that. When you bring in that light, you're bringing in electromagnetic energy, thought and emotion. And your thoughts and emotions are the environment that Bruce Lipton talked about, that forms the epigenetic energy that influences cellular behavior. We're just taking time, just to have a good understanding of this thing, and your questions are very helpful. So please, if you have any questions, just remember someone else might be having the same question. Are there any other questions or comments you'd like to make? Carolyn again.
Sorry, but this is triggering all kinds of things. This might explain why that there are so many kinds of MS and nobody can pinpoint the origin of it. Medicines don't really work, and I can see why now. This whole thing is revelatory to me. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And maybe what's even more confusing is sometimes one regimen does work, but when it's tried to be replicated, it doesn't work in another.
Right, right.
That's just as confusing. Not only that none of them work, but some work for some, but not for others. And how do you know if you're just treating the symptom rather than the cause of what's going to work or not?
Yeah, this whole thing has given me so much of things I feel but couldn't put words to in this whole area. This is really great for me.
Good. It's good for all of us, Carolyn. It's good for all of us. We're all striving to know ourselves better and to deal with the body. We just have to deal with this body, and we need to take a better look at it, I think. Are there any other comments or questions anyone has? Your comments are helpful. Tim or Karen, and then Margaret.
I am going back to to something you said that seems really profound to me. And that when you were saying that, to remember that the soul is always directing the process, so that someone may have illness just to experience the illness, or he may be experiencing the illness to also continue on and experience the healing, and that you don't know which way that is going for each individual person. But it makes me think more profoundly that this is the case for all that we've come to experience, not just physically, but
exactly
all of our experiences. And that's why, we've come into this world, as is, as we are, for these experience. And it may be just to experience the experience, or it may be to evolve from, because of those experiences also. And so my other point was then that if we're taking these kinds of workshops, if we're in these kinds of studies, to me, then it is an indicator to us, to me, that my soul is directing me towards healing and elevation. Just the fact that I'm doing this. I don't know why, I just felt the need to say that, because it was profound to me as I'm listening to all of these questions and your responses. And this is wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome, Karen. And you've said a mouthful, and that's very important, that we understand that. Let's not feel that someone else seems to have had a cure. I do not, therefore I'm a failure. Not necessarily so. That may just not be what your soul has really been guiding you to experience. That is just really important. Thank you, Karen. Margaret.
I was very enthralled when you were telling your steps, for instance, your experience in the night 20 years ago and what you heard. And I wasn't writing all that down. Are you going to repeat it, or is it written down
It's in your outline.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It's in the outline. So if you, I don't know if you have your outline there yet.
No, my printer was out of paper and I didn't print it.
Okay, it's right there. So all you'll need to do is put some more paper in your printer, and you
Okay.
you'll be in business. You can do it during the intermission if you would like.
Thanks.
Be very easy. Are there any other questions or any other comments? Again, I encourage your questions if you have any, or comments. This is important for us. Okay, just give you one more minute to see if anything else pops up in your minds. Okay, let me then take you into a nice little meditation, which will be kind of a summary of what we've done, and prepare ourselves then for session 2. So let's begin as we normally do by, again, just focusing on the breath, just breathing in and breathing out. Never taking the breath for granted, but focusing on it. And let me suggest that each one of us, there's 26, 27 of us here this morning, that we feel a wonderful energy within ourselves, a lot of hope, confidence, and excitement even. And would you just take a moment to notice that there's something about this presentation that is incredibly positive, looking to the future. Just notice that energy from within you that has also been generated by all the rest of us. And now would you start putting your attention on the constructive elements of this first presentation? Beginning first of all with the notion that I do want to create my reality. I know this. And I want to take a better look at what I can do concerning my physical body. I just want to take a better look. And would you say to yourself that I will do the work? I will do the work of taking a better look. This is an important first step for you, that you will take a better look at what's possible for you, not put it on. You have to be willing to do the work. And not wait until it's too late. And would you clearly recognize the difference between healing and thriving? Healing is making up for, and we have to heal. There are things we need to make up for. It's thriving is moving into expansion. So I invite you to, yes, of course, we want to work on healing. But we don't want to wait for another shoe to drop. We want to thrive. That demands initial work until you're thriving. Both are important to heal and then to move to expansion, thriving. If there is one basic in session one's presentation, it is how you see your identity from that limited human to that eternal soul spirit. You can be quite conscious of both. It is very important to be quite conscious as to what is the dominant. Of course, we're in human bodies. It is not our identity. Would you continue to focus right now and in your future on who am I? And perhaps come to the understanding, yes, I really am. I really am an eternal soul spirit. And I will stop acting like a limited human and start acting like an eternal soul spirit in full control of our human manifestation and expression. And be absolutely clear that the core of this change in identity, the core of your change, you have stopped playing the game of separation. You are no longer dimming your lights, but now have realigned, and on a daily basis, you are consciously aware that you are connected to your source. You are moving into being a light being. And lastly, how about a sense of gratitude to Bruce Lipton, Dawson Church, and all of the epigeneticists who have given us another way of looking at what was seemingly a mechanistic body, to realize that it is much more than energetic body, with energy from many, many different levels now. May we be in great gratitude for this wonderful work that we are now privy to. Return now to the rhythm of your breathing. And would you notice just how good you feel? Just how good you feel. There's a wonderful energy moving through you. Wonderful energy. With much more to come. And with that, let me invite you to gently breathe your eyes open. Nice smile on your face. And just a reminder that if you keep muted and keep your videos off, I'll just hit our recording on to pause, and then we'll reconvene at noon. Take a time for a little break for yourself. But in the meantime, never forget, I am an eternal being of light and love. Thus, only good can come to me, and only good can come from me. And we are eternal beings of light and love. Thus, only good can come to us, and only good can come from us. Namaste. I welcome all of you back now to session 2. Let me begin by saying that, first of all, I am not a chemical biologist. I just want you to know that. I am not an authority on crystals, but rather I think that we have put together some very interesting facts about the crystalline structure of the body And then, like always, it is up to us to do the work and to see how effective our work will be. I really want to stress this. You have to do the work. You can't just say, oh, that was really an interesting seminar, and then dismiss it. You have to be willing to do the work. And I want to encourage you to do so. As always, the proof will be in the pudding. So let's take a good look at this crystalline structure and try, as we do so, to raise the quality of our life. Let's look first of all what we would consider to be the facts. The first fact, first and foremost, that the game of separation is over. We have stopped dimming our light. This is critical to accept, that you have stopped dimming your light. Have you? Have you? Have you at least begun to release the old habits of fear and uncertainty that might still be with us? I can't stress this enough. You have to make the change from that limited human perspective to seeing yourself as a conscious, eternal soul spirit. Let's presume that you have done so. The second fact, we have rekindled our light. We have rekindled our light. Please listen closely so that you understand exactly what this means. It means that we no longer see ourselves as simply carbon-based human bodies. We no longer see ourselves as carbon-based human bodies, that rather we are now experiencing ourselves as a conscious soul spirit who has not left our source. This is a very important thing. We are conscious soul spirits, non-physical but conscious soul spirits inhabiting the body. And we have not left our source. This is what it means to be in the light. To be in the light means that we are conscious soul spirits that hold the light of our source energy. We are conscious soul spirits that hold the light of our source energy. Let's call this light energy the mind of God. This is really an important thing for us to grasp, that this light is the mind of God. Fact 3. What is this light energy? What is this consciousness? What is this mind of God? This light energy that we have come to know is an electromagnetic radiation. This conscious energy of our thought and the emotions generated by it, this conscious energy of our thinking and the emotions generated by it, is an electromagnetic radiation. You feel this all the time. This light energy, this source energy, this mind of God is a presence. It is a conscious presence. It is a feeling that is within us. It is an intuitive presence. This thought, this feeling, this radio-magnetic energy, this electromagnetic energy. It is composed of two things. It is composed of two things that we have learned from A Course in mastering alchemy. The first thing about this God energy, this electromagnetic radiation, is the electric part of it. This electric part is thought energy. It is conscious intelligence. It is a knowing. It's an illumination. It's an awareness. It is the mind of God that we experience in our higher mind. One of the two still points that is within our physical being. So the electric part of this thought radiation is received in our higher minds, back of our heads. It is reception of the mind of God in one of the two still points that we have within our physical body. So when we say we're raising the frequency of our thought, the raising of that frequency of thinking, we receive here in our higher mind the electrical component that we then bring into our bodies. The second part of the God energy is the magnetic aspect. This magnetic energy is the multitude. It's the multitude of God feelings, such as love, oneness, and freedom. And these magnetic feelings we feel in the second of our still points, namely in our sacred heart. In our sacred heart. So what becomes very important for us is to realize that the mind of God, the thoughts and the feelings of God are able to come into us through our two still points, the higher mind and our sacred heart. We've learned a lot about what the light is. The light is an electromagnetic energy that is the knowing of the thoughts and values of the God source. Just need to say this again. The electromagnetic energy is the knowing of the thoughts and the values of our God energy. Now, with these three facts in mind, you might have legitimate questions, as I did. How does this light, how does this electromagnetic energy really get into our bodies? And specifically, what is the role that crystals play in the process? How can these crystals, in a sense, then change the structure of the chemistry of our body from a non-reflecting carbon-based body to a light-reflecting crystalline structure? I'll repeat that. How can these crystals change the structure of the chemistry of our body from a non-light reflecting carbon-based body to a light reflecting crystalline structure? And what would be the results of such a change? And how can we then make these changes in our lives? So many questions, so many questions. So let's get to the answers as best as I can answer them for you. What follows now on your worksheets is addressing the 5 questions. You have them there, and I will give you the answers as I see them anyways. So the first question, how does the light enter our physical bodies? How does this electromagnetic energy from the source enter into the physical body? We've given you the general ways through our still points of the higher mind and the sacred heart. But let me now be more specific in the actual ways that these things occur. So the first answer, the first way in which the electromagnetic energy comes in from the source is through our crown chakra. The energy comes in through our crown chakra and is translated by the crystals in our pineal gland. It's our pineal gland that is able to translate the light, the thoughts, and the values of God, and put them into usable human understanding for usable human experience. The crystals in the pineal gland, just follow, it's not difficult, it just takes attention. The crystals in the pineal gland then send messages of light, first of all to our brain by way of neurotransmitters, then to our endocrine system, all of the glands that stimulate the tissues and organs and cells of our bodies, and eventually to our neurological system through the medulla oblongata, through our spinal cord, and through our neurological network. This is the way it works in the first part. The light comes in through our crown chakra into our pineal gland. That light gets translated into brain understanding, thought, magnetic understanding, emotion, feelings, the endocrine system, and actions through our neurological system. I'll just say that again. The light comes in, is translated in that pineal, that middle part of your brain where you think. And that energy then goes, yes, to the brain for thought, for understanding, the electrical component. And then to your biochemical endocrine system through the pituitary and all of your endocrine glands. All of the hormones then bathing our tissues and organs and cells with this energy. And then to our neurological system through the medulla oblongata, so that we can put these things into action. See, it all depends on the quality of the light coming in. There's a second pathway. The second pathway is through the axiotonal lines. The axiotonal lines, which are our connection with the God energy, bring that energy into our meridian systems and our chakras, the etheric aspect of who we are. And that energy then is distributed throughout the entire physical organism through the meridians and chakra systems. It's called the axial circulatory system. So we have two systems that deliver the electromagnetic energy. I'll review them again. The first one coming in through the crown chakra into the pineal gland, which translates the light into usable thought knowledge and emotional knowledge biochemically for the brain, our endocrine system, and our neurological system, so that we might do these things. The second delivery system is much more of the electromagnetic rather than just the biochemical. The electromagnetic is much more coming in through the axiotonal lines and our meridians and chakras. They will have the same effect as the biochemical system coming in through the pineal, namely to bring this electromagnetic energy to stimulate the crystals within our physicality. You can see where the Course in Mastering Alchemy is an essential piece. That's a very important piece for us to understand. In my opinion, anyways, we have learned to take all this information that we have studied in A Course in Mastering Alchemy, and now we're beginning to truly realize, in a sense, the importance of the Course. It was a big step for us to understand the process of how the electromagnetic radiation from the mind of God, the light, gets translated into us. The second question: what roles do the crystals play in the process? The second answer: our carbon-based physical bodies, do not absorb the light, according to Dawson Church. Thus, the crystals located throughout the body, they absorb the light. So the crystals throughout the body absorb the higher light, which was cut off when we played the game of separation. That's why it's important to understand that the crystals have the role then of allowing this light to be received into our physicality. In fact, the crystals in the body act like computer chips because they are made of the same element, silicon. Crystals are based on a silicon base. Thus, the silicon in your body acts as a semiconductor of the light, which our carbon-based body is unable to do. I'll just say it again. The silicon in the body acts as a semiconductor of light, just like a computer chip, just like in the computers, which our carbon-based body is unable to do. This is now so very important, and this goes to the question that Doug and John both asked in the first session. The crystals are not only able to receive the light, but they are able to store the light and also amplify the light. The crystals within the body are able to receive and store the light, but also to amplify the light. This is exactly what happens in meditation. When we are receiving the electromagnetic radiation of the source into and amplified by the receptive crystals. Why do you feel so good when you meditate? It's a good question to ask yourself. Why do you feel so good? Because there is a reception of the light, of the God energy, and its amplification within you. This is giving us now a conscious experience of light energy. We're beginning to get that presence, that feeling within us. There's a physiological component to it. So that even when you turn your mind away from your meditation, the feeling stays with you. This is especially felt when the crystals of the collagen that make up your fascia gives you that wonderful feeling of the source throughout your mental, physical, and emotional bodies. The fascia, which really, in a sense, connects everything within the body, is also a crystalline substance. So that when it receives the higher light, well, my goodness, you do feel good, mentally, emotionally, and physically, because you're receiving the light into your physicality. Thus, you see the importance of crystals. They are receivers, conduits, storehouses, and amplifiers of the light, which is the God energy. I can't say that too many times. That's what crystals do. They receive the light, they store it, and they amplify it, giving us the possibility of moving into a different crystalline structure of the body rather than just the one that was carbon-based, because we had dimmed our lights in the game of separation. Question 3. How can these crystals in the body change the structure of the chemistry of the body? The answer to question 3. As the crystals absorb the vibration of the light of the God energy, as the crystals absorb the vibration of the light of the God energy, they raise the vibration of the cells of the body and begin to change the vibration of the cells of the body into a higher electromagnetic energy that is in harmony with the light of the Creator's energy. So the crystals raise the vibration of our cells. You know the process. Those spin points open, either through the light liquid or through the electromagnetic energy from the meridian system. And it begins then to elevate our ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which affects the RNA and then our DNA. And that's how things change. So that now the light coming into your DNA, remember, there are crystals in your DNA. As that new light comes in through the electromagnetic radiation from the source, it can then stimulate the crystals within your DNA that change the structure of your body into a light body. It'll still retain much of the physicality, but no longer vibrate in that lower energy. It was the dimming of our light to play the game of separation that brought the illness, aging, and death to the body. And now we're looking at the possibility of not only healing, but thriving. Not only healing, but thriving. As you begin to absorb more light into your body chemistry will change into a much more crystal-like substance. Remember the definition of a crystal: a highly regular parallel array of molecules, whether in liquid or solid form. Your cells, your organs, and your tissues will become crystal-like as a highly regular parallel array of molecules. As this does so, your whole body will become a crystalline conduit of light. Your whole body, your physicality, will become a crystalline structure of the light. Or as we sometimes say, your body will become a biological transducer of the light. Your body will become a biological transducer of the light, transforming not only your physical body, but also the body of the earth, our region of the galaxy, and beyond. It just takes time. You have to know the process. Once it makes sense, once it feels right, then we're ready for question 4. What would be the results of such a change? What would be the results of such a change? The answer. The question is a delight for me to answer, not only for you, but to answer it for myself. As your physical body is able to hold more light on a consistent basis. Now repeat that. As your physical body is able to hold more light on a consistent basis, and your mental and emotional bodies are able to do the same, you begin to feel that you have not left your source. Because you're starting to vibrate with the same godlike qualities of the source, which now are becoming your energy. That's why it's imperative to understand that you have to change your sense of self from that limited human to an eternal soul spirit who not only has not left its source, but now is a conduit of the source's energy. This internal connection between the new crystalline structure of your body, mind, and emotions, this new internal connection between this crystalline structure of your body, emotions, and mind, and the light of the mind of God coming into you begins to feel, to be an experience that you have not left your source. How many times have you heard those words from A Course in Miracles? But now you begin to experience that. I am an eternal soul spirit. Consciously, I have not left my source. Consciously. This internal raising of the vibration of light within you, due to the recrystallization of your body, makes it much easier for you to experience yourself as a soul spirit. And this begins to happen in such a way that the presence within you does not fade. It begins to be a continuous presence to the degree that you continue to do the work of bringing in the light. You begin to feel that you are a Christed being, which you are. You begin to feel, I am a Christed being, which you are. And your purpose is to usher in the kingdom of God, which you're doing. In the past, such ideas were only dreams, maybe hopes at best. But now, they are what you most want to do, to usher in the kingdom of God, because they are now what you most want to be in the vibration of the God Spirit. Your doing is now following the guidance of your being. You just want to love everyone. Just as we're here right now, you just want to love everyone. And additionally, and this becomes the best part, additionally, this consciousness, this conscious light begins to expand you into new possibilities, from simply becoming an unlimited being of light to maybe traveling in the Merkaba in your light body to other star systems and beyond. You're expanding into the light because you have seen yourself differently. You have been open to the light. The light is being restructured by way of your recrystallization. And as a result, your experience is changing. fifth question. How can we make these changes real in our lives? You know me well enough to say that I'm never going to give you a seminar that doesn't say, what can you practically do? The answer to this fifth question is best responded to, first of all, by a principle, and then some practical possibilities in the work of now creations. The principle is this: do less and be more. Do less and be more. And what I mean by this is that you take the time, that you don't just look for more things to do in your free time, but rather you take the time to work much more on your being, much more expanding this sense of self. Rather than looking for, oh, I got more things to do in the world. You'll always have more things to do in the world. The more you have more things to do in the world. It's a matter of taking time for your being. Only you can make that decision to expand. And I want to encourage you to take more and more time to be, sitting quietly in silence. Your spiritual expansion will become your pathway forward. As soon as you begin to understand that you're an eternal spiritual being, this is what you most want to do, your spiritual expansion. Now, in addition to your personal spiritual practices of expansion, I would highly suggest the following. That first of all, you continue all of the study groups of Now Creations, whatever you're doing, that you continue your study groups in Now Creations. They are all moving us in the pathway of spiritual expansion. Join our new study group Monday morning. Spend more time in the study groups of Now Creation, as many of you have begun to do. But if you're specifically interested in the crystallization process of the body, I would suggest the following 3 Now Creations programs. If this is your bent, I want to know more about the crystallization of the body. First, I would encourage you to join us in a course in Mastering Alchemy on Thursday evenings from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Every Thursday, 7 to 8:30. We're beginning the meaty part of the book. Whether you've done the alchemy course in the past or not, I would highly recommend that you take the course. Those of you that are doing so, which is the majority of those taking the course, are finding things you've never seen before. If you're going to advance in the recrystallization, this is a vital piece. Secondly, I recommend that you join us in our topical conversations on the first and third Sundays of the month with our new study of What is Light Body by Tashira Tachi Ren. It's a book that will stretch your sense of self. I highly recommend that you join us on the first and third Sundays of the month for our topical conversation. Third, but foremost. Third, but foremost. Foremost. If you're interested in the recrystallization of the body, I highly recommend that you join us for the Unified Chakra Meditation every Monday evening from 7 to 8 o'clock. My feeling is that this is the best collective tool that we have to crystalline our bodies. I wouldn't tell you that if I didn't think that was the case. I hope you might do it privately on your own, on a daily basis, but I really believe that it is the best collective tool that we have. Just listen to the opening stanza. I breathe in light, oh my, through the center of my heart, opening my heart into a beautiful ball of light, thus allowing me to expand. This is exactly what we're doing. I highly, highly recommend that you join us. This is the presentation that I want to make in our second session. So I've kind of given you some introduction and then tried to give you 5 questions that I looked at and to see how, in fact, we might be able to answer those questions. Again, we'll continue to expand, and I'm certainly not saying this is the ultimate answer, but it's a good beginning for us. So with that, I very much invite you, as we did this morning, to honor your questions. Are there questions, comments you want to make, especially on how we go about in the recrystallization of our bodies? Any comments or any questions?
Vince?
Yes, Dan.
You have mentioned many times along the spine that we should increase the frequency of what we do. In the word frequency, of course, that implies that do it over and over again. Are there different ways, however, of, say, visualizations or specificities that can be brought in here? For example, we mentioned the crystallizations in the eye. Is it possible or advisable to try to specify that these crystals, in other words, direct our thoughts toward the crystals in the eye, particularly if we have a failing vision, etc. Anyway, I think you have the crux of my question here.
Yes, absolutely. I would very much explore that. I personally have not done that, but I think you can explore those areas. And there is a whole notion on the electromagnetic energy of the eyes that I have not personally explored, but I know that is available. And I would certainly encourage you to do that. I would certainly encourage you to specifically work on that. Google it. Just see what you get. Electromagnetic energy with the rods and cones in the back of your eye. I just think that would be interesting to do.
Someone in the group has mentioned, for example, cancer remission as a result of focused attention on the healing of that sort of thing. And we know in even, I guess you'd call it on a third level thinking involved in hypnosis, that focused attention on given areas of the body can produce good results.
I think without a doubt, I would just want to clarify again, there's a difference between they can produce good results and they will produce good results based on, I think, the direction that the soul was really leading the body in. I just think it's a very important thing because it has worked maybe in some cases, but a person feels that it's going to magically work in every other case. And I just think we just have to be careful. That's all. So I certainly feel that they can. And I feel that you do, as you do more of the higher energy, you're going to have more experiences. But that's based on what the soul has in mind for you. I just want to be really crystal clear with that, because I know many people who have felt that they were going to beat the system, or they wanted at least to beat the system, and they did not. Does that mean they're a failure? Not at all. I just think we have to be clear of what can be as opposed to what will be. Just want to be crystal clear on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, excuse the
This is
pun.
wonderful. This is wonderful stuff, by the way.
Good, Stan. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Other questions on the procedures, the processes, or especially how the crystals perhaps will help you? Again, your questions, any questions or comments you have are very, very helpful to people.
It's almost as if the crystals have ears that they can respond to requests. And I was about to say, as we practice more with this, I think our confidence increases, and the whole idea of increasing confidence can be a help as well.
Absolutely. I'm going to give you the confidence booster if we have no more questions and comments. But I want to just be very attentive, though, to questions and comments first. Sherry? Mm-hmm.
I wanted to suggest something that might support Stan. As a Reiki practitioner, I was always taught to respect the soul, and I always put in the highest and best for all involved.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
we're all so intertwined on our soul's journey.
Yeah, I think that's always important. And I think any good Reiki master will always say that. Absolutely. Thank you, Sherry. Are there any other comments or any questions anyone would like to ask? Margaret? Mm-hmm.
Mine is a question of how to try to attend your alchemy. I would love to re-attend alchemy, but it is at a time when I absolutely have a commitment. Is there a recording of it or some other way so that that's not the only time?
There is not, unfortunately, Margaret. We've done this course so many times.
Right.
That, Thursday night is the only time right now that we're doing the alchemy course. Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so what I will then do is I will give you a way of going about this that I do. And I do this regularly. But before we do this, I'm going to ask you to write down something. Would you write down this following little thing I'm going to give you? Just write it on your on the notes for today's session. I think you'll find this to be quite helpful. I am a recipient of. I am a recipient of. Write this down whether you have it written down somewhere else or not. You'll see why. I am a recipient of and a contributor to. I am a recipient of and a contributor to the universal flow of life. I am a recipient of and a contributor to the universal flow of life. Period. I'll say it again. I am a recipient of and a contributor to the universal flow of life. The second little sentence, I am a conduit of life. I am a conduit of life. Okay? I am a recipient of and a contributor to the universal flow of life. I am a conduit of life. Okay? I'm going to take you on a nice, lovely meditation, and we'll come back at the end for just a couple of concluding thoughts. So let's begin as we normally do. Again, just focusing on the breath, just breathing in and breathing out, and being attentive. Be attentive to your breath. Don't just, oh, yes, I'm breathing. Allow the breath just to do what it does. Let it just settle you. Settle your body, settle your mind, and just bring you to the fore. Please begin. And would you simply place your hand over your sternum, and would you just say to yourself, I am an eternal soul spirit. I know this to be true. I am an eternal soul spirit. I know this to be my true identity. And would you say these words with a sincerity and a depth that perhaps maybe you haven't had before? Just a sincerity and a depth. I am an eternal soul spirit. I am an eternal soul spirit. And again, with your hand over your sternum, would you add these words? I am an eternal soul spirit that has not left my source. And would you just feel your connection to your source? I am an eternal soul spirit that has not left my source. This is your conscious identity. This is not a fabrication. It's who you are. Okay. Now, I want you to refer back, and I'll give you the words of that little saying we wrote before we began the meditation. Now I'm going to take you into this. The saying was, I am a recipient of and a contributor to the universal flow of life. I am a conduit of life. Now, what I want to do in the meditation is to help you to see, to feel, to experience how this light of the divine is connected to you. I'm going to give you a specific way. Let's take the first part of the saying. I am a recipient of the universal flow of life. Just repeat those words and I'll be more specific in a moment. I am a recipient of the universal flow of life. Now, with this in mind, you are a recipient of the universal flow of life. Would you accept the fact that you are created for well-being? The divine has created you for well-being. Would you accept that? If you, with all of your limitations, and your child asks for a loaf of bread, would you give them a stone? Or a fish, would you give them a snake? How much more? Your God energy has created you for well-being. Would you get out of your head and into the higher light energy of accepting the fact that you are a recipient of well-being? Would you accept the fact that you are the recipient of God's well-being? And anything of a lower energy is what you have concocted. Bring that energy into your pineal gland. Put it into your brain. Put it into your endocrine system. Put it into your neurology. Let the crystals there do their thing. Bring it into you. Feel it within your physicality. See what a difference that made, wasn't it? Let it permeate your fascia. Notice how you're feeling right now, just right now. Just notice how good you feel. This light, this electromagnetic vibration from the God source is now in you, amplified by the crystals. So we got the first part of that saying done. I am a recipient of the universal flow of life. You're feeling that right now, I know you are. Let's now look at the second part of the statement. I am a recipient of and a contributor to the universal flow of life. Are you not a contributor to the Godlight? How many times you need to hear, child of God, you were created to create the good, the beautiful, and the holy. You make your contribution to the flow of life, heaven to earth, ushering in the kingdom of God, awareness to the planet. You're a contributor to the universal flow of light. And I'm going to give you just a little phrase. Whatever contribution you make, may you simply make it with loving kindness. That's the contribution. Loving kindness. You as an extension of the God Spirit. You are a conduit of life, receiving and contributing. You are a biological transducer of the light. Aren't you feeling yourself a buzz? These are the crystals amplifying the light, amplifying the light. Return now to the rhythm of your breathing. Nice, easy breathing. Notice again how good you feel. As well you should. Now just gently opening your eyes. Shouldn't be hard to be happy. Being in this wonderful, wonderful energy. So let me welcome you back. And I want to explain to you what I just got done doing in a way that certainly makes today's seminar very helpful for us. The key for us is to now bring in the light. Every day, what I do is I bring in the light with these two thoughts. I am created in well-being. And I extend the light of well-being. So when we talk about bringing in the light can be a lot of different things. It can be freedom, could be peace, could be calmness, could be world unity, many, many different things. What's helpful for me in my life is I want to feel that I'm created in well-being and that I'm always going to be taken care of by the well-being of my source. But I'm not just a recipient of that. I contribute to it as well. So I bring in the light of being a recipient and contributor to well-being, the flow of life. When I bring in that light, it's a radiation, it's an electromagnetic energy. And it'll come in through my crown chakra, into my pineal, into my brain, my biochemistry, my emotions, and my neurology, my physicality. As well as coming in through my axiotonal lines of the meridians and chakras. It then becomes amplified by the crystals within me. And that's what gives us that wonderful feeling. And then during the course of a day, these crystals continue to store that energy and remind me, oh yes, yes, you're a recipient of and a contributor to the universal flow of life. I'm trying to give you an understanding of a very practical thing you just got done doing in your meditation. I do it pretty much every day. I do it every day. I am created in well-being. I contribute to that. It gets amplified within my physicality, and it helps me to expand. So I hope that was an explanation to you of what's possible in what we just got done doing. And you feel it. I mean, it just permeates you, which it should, if it has the worth that we would suspect that it does. With that in mind, are there any comments any of you would like to make on this nice, lovely meditation and or the seminar on the whole? Nancy Mudd. Mm-hmm.
Yes, good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon, Vince. And just heartfelt thanks for this seminar this morning. You know, I sometimes think that I am limited in my understanding and sometimes even like intelligence sort of grasping, you know, the depth and the knowledge and the technicality of all of it. But what I super really appreciate is a number of times throughout the session here is you have stressed the importance of the practicality of it and the application. Because for me, you know, that is what is most important, is that I am maximizing the potential, you know, of that crystalline job and the purpose of that, whether I totally understand it or not. I guess I'd say I'm okay with that, but I do know that it is available in me and I can access that, and I can certainly be a conduit of it and a contributor.
Absolutely.
And the recipient, you know, all of what you said in our meditation. So that is the absolute for me, that I can do that because that's what my soul desire is. So just thank you. And thanks to all of the like-minded mighty souls out there. It's been wonderful to share it with all of you. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. John Hoops. Mm-hmm.
I want to say, to me, a real key is this accepting yourself as connected to your source, that there is this connection. If you don't believe you're connected to source, this would all fall apart. That connection to me is kind of the transducer from the non-physical to the physical. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll just applaud, stand up, bravo. This, I was excited for this Saturday, and it was beyond my expectations. This was really good. Yeah, I concur with Nancy. It's available. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, John, for your comment. Bob, and then Carolyn.
Thank you, Vince. Yeah, just to follow up on what John talks about. This one really was like you helping me in particular wrap my arms around the whole thing. I've had the opportunity to share many of these workshop seminars in Youngstown there personally. Several of these on of course now via Zoom. But what really brought it together for me was how I felt that you spoke much more from your heart than from your intelligence with the message you're trying to convey about us being able to, again, get our arms around it and really own it and really enjoy it and really believe it and really live it and really, aspire to it where we will start our ascensions. So, for this one, it's hard to thank you for involved, but this one was especially significant for me, and I think for many of us. So thanks very much. You did a great job on this one in particular.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Thank you for your sharing. Carolyn.
This was a day when I had like 5 things to do, and my brain kept telling me, no, you will set those aside and you will be here. But no, you will be here. And I can't thank you enough for everything you've presented today and made real, especially made real. Thank you so much.
So very important. It's got to become real, and it makes the difference. John. Mm-hmm.
Just briefly, personally, I did not feel this was too heavy, Vince.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I felt ready for putting these things together. It was inspiring, enlightening, but maybe heavy, and there's work to do and consistent practice and get going with more energy, but heavy as this is something, it's not that, kind of heaviness.
A big piece. A
big piece. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
That's a good word for it. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Mm-hmm.
Vince, may I make a comment?
Of course, Stan and then Bob. Bob Dunn.
I want to second Bob's former comment of this being a very intelligent and in a way scientific presentation. I thought it was just excellent. There's one more thing that I thought was very good, and that is that you have a natural way of inducing relaxation, and relaxation it makes the body and mind and emotions so much more receptive to all of the things that we might practice, the unified chakra, the pink diamond, and all that. And I think by Vince's flowing of his verbiage, speaking in soft tones, and having a sense of where we're at emotionally and psychologically. Anyway, I think it was a great job. And thank you so much, Vince.
Thank you, Stan. Appreciate your comments. Bob Dove.
Vince, I just wanted to say that this was such a good way of connecting the dots for all of us. That as we go through all of these different books and theories and practices, sometimes we lose sight of the fact that they're all leading to the same place. They're all part of the same experience. Mm-hmm. And I think it's critical that we are able to connect the dots, and you have done that for us in such a marvelous manner. And I not only want to thank you for that, but consider that maybe each year you do a connect the dots summary to help us put it all together as we move forward. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. We've been doing an annual seminar, so I think you might be on target with that, Bob. Thank you. Karen.
I was thinking the same thing as Bob about connecting the dots, and I just thought it's a gestalt of, of all these different books that we have been studying, and to put it together again into practicality And I want to say that I am so grateful for Tony making it possible to have these recorded, because I often like to be taking notes, and then I like to go back and listen and not take a note and just absorb it all. And then sometimes I'll go back again and look through the notes again and add to it. But I love having that opportunity to just listen without taking notes too. And that's key to me, to really absorbing for the practical use.
Thank you, Karen, for mentioning it. For Tony and Aurel, who do our technical work for us, this is just so very important for us. And I appreciate you saying that, because we all have to help each other. We all have to do our parts. And I'll ask you, when we ask you to do something, I ask you to generously come forward, to do what you can to assist us when you can. We all have to help each other. Thank you, Karen. That was very nicely stated. Are there any other comments that anyone would like to make? Mary.
I kind of want to ditto what was just said. I really liked about the taking notes and then going back and listening to it. And I'm really grateful that you're going to have that, because I really like my husband Skip to listen to this. But anyway, it was like everybody said, this was great. It was really good. I really can't verbalize it any better. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Joy to do it. Any final comment anyone would like to make? Let me then just close with the notion of I encourage you to do the work. Don't just put this back in a drawer. This is really where we're heading. This is really where we're heading. It's a required course. Course in Miracles language. You can take it now, or you'll have to take it later. I encourage you to take it now with a group of willing, aspiring souls. We'll continue to help each other grow together. This is where we are meant to be at this stage in our lives. Makes it quite easy to say, I am an eternal being of light and love. Thus, only good can come to me, and only good can come from me. And we are eternal beings of light and love. Thus, only good can come to us, and only good can come from us. Namaste.